The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chambers sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside, representatives from 50 of the most powerful species in the known galaxy sat in rising circular tiers, their voices rising in anger and fear. At the center of the chamber, a hologram showed a swirling purple mass that pulsed with deadly energy, the quantum anomaly that threatened to destroy everything they held dear. Council leader Rex, a tall being with golden scales and proud bearing, raised his clawed hand for silence. The anomaly has already consumed 2 colonial worlds, he announced, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. Our bravest warriors have tried to approach it. None have returned. From the warrior races section, General Stone of the rock-skinned granites stood up. His crystalline body reflected light as he moved. Then we must send more warriors, a larger force. We will crush this threat with our might. Sounds of agreement rumbled through the chamber. The warrior races had always led the galaxy's defense. Their solution to every problem was direct confrontation, and until now, it had worked. My people will join this glorious battle, declared Commander Bright of the Energy Beings. Her form glowed with fierce blue light. We fear nothing. Tom Miller, the human ambassador, sat quietly in his seat, watching the hologram with careful eyes. He was new to the council, humanity having joined the galactic community just 5 years ago. Unlike the other representatives who wore elaborate armor or displayed natural weapons, he wore a simple blue suit. When he finally stood up, several representatives turned to look at him with mixed curiosity and dismissal. Perhaps, Tom said, his voice calm and measured, we should study the anomaly first. Send probes, gather data, understand what we're dealing with before we risk more lives. The chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in laughter. General Stone's crystalline body actually cracked with mirth. Typical human response. The general boomed, always wanting to study, to plan, to be careful. Where's the glory in that? Where's the courage? Commander Bright's glow pulsed with amusement. This is why humans are considered the weakest species. You fear everything. You even fear your own shadows. Tom remained standing, his face composed despite the mockery. On Earth, we have a saying, look before you leap. It's kept us alive through countless challenges. Yes, yes, Rex said, waving a dismissive hand. We've all heard about Earth and its many dangers. That's why your kind developed these cautious tendencies. But this is a galactic matter. We need brave action, not careful planning. The hologram pulsed ominously, as if emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Tom looked at it again, noticing patterns in its movement that others seemed to ignore in their rush for action. The anomaly has already destroyed several battle fleets, Tom pointed out. Maybe that should tell us something about the effectiveness of direct confrontation. It tells us we need a bigger fleet, someone shouted from the upper tiers. Tom shook his head slowly. The Earth Space Command has experience with unusual phenomena. We would be willing to send a research team. A research team. General Stone interrupted, his crystal face fracturing into what passed for a smile among his kind. While we need warriors, you offer us scientists. This is why humans will never be taken seriously in galactic matters. The chamber filled with more laughter, but Tom noticed that a few representatives, particularly those from the older species, were watching him with thoughtful expressions. Rex raised his hand again for silence. We appreciate humanity's unique perspective, he said diplomatically, but this threat requires immediate action. I am calling for a united warrior fleet from all capable species. As the council erupted in enthusiastic planning for the massive military response, Tom sat down and quietly sent a message to Earth Space Command. He had a feeling they would be needed soon, after all the direct approaches failed. Sometimes, what others saw as cowardice was simply wisdom, learned from thousands of years of survival on a planet that had tried its best to kill them. The hologram continued to pulse, its purple tendrils seeming to dance with ancient intelligence. waiting for those who would finally understand its true nature. The Earth Space Command vessel Prudence hung in the dark space at the edge of the danger zone, its sleek silver hull reflecting distant starlight. Unlike the massive battle cruisers that had charged toward the anomaly, the Prudence was small, designed for research and exploration rather than combat. Captain Lisa Brown stood on the bridge, watching the main screen where the purple quantum anomaly swirled like a hungry storm. Her crew of 15 worked quietly at their stations, each focused on their tasks. No battle cries, no speeches about glory, just careful, methodical work. "Another drone is ready for launch, Captain," Engineer Mike Davis reported from his station. His workspace was cluttered with tablets showing different scanner readings and probe data. Unlike the warrior races who prided themselves on perfect order, Mike's organized chaos helped him think better. "Launch when ready," Lisa ordered. She watched as their 10th probe of the day entered the purple mass. Like the others before it, this one carried different sensors and was programmed with a unique approach pattern. From his station, Science Officer Jack Thompson spoke up. "Captain, I'm noticing something interesting in the data from the last 3 probes. There's a pattern to how they're being destroyed." The bridge crew turned to look at the main screen where Jack displayed his findings. Unlike the warrior race's ships that had charged straight in, the human probes had tried different approaches. Some moved fast, others slow. Some went straight, others in spirals. Each probe's destruction added another piece to the puzzle. "Look here," Jack pointed to a graph. "When the probes approach aggressively, they're destroyed instantly. But probe 7, the one that approached slowly while running passive scans, lasted 3 times longer." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. On a smaller screen, she could see the massive fleet gathering at the Council's command. Thousands of warships from 20 different species, all preparing for what they called a glorious charge into the anomaly. They had dismissed her offers to share the probe data. "Send the next probe with minimal power output," she ordered. "No active scanning, just passive sensors. Let's see if looking harmless helps us last longer." As they worked, a message came through from one of the Council's warships. The face of General Stone appeared on the communication screen, his crystal features set in what humans had learned was an expression of contempt. "Captain Brown," he rumbled, "your vessel is in the way of our battle fleet. Move aside so real warriors can solve this problem." Lisa kept her voice professional. "General, we've gathered some interesting data about the anomaly's behavior. Would you like to?" "Data?" The general interrupted with a laugh that sounded like grinding rocks. "We don't need data. We need courage, strength, direct action." The communication cut off. Lisa watched as the massive fleet began to move forward, their engines glowing like new stars. The warrior races had spent days giving speeches about bravery and glory. The humans had spent those same days gathering information and testing theories. "Probe 11 is showing something new," Mike called out excitedly. "It's lasted 7 minutes longer than any previous attempt." The bridge crew gathered around his station, examining the readings. The probe was still functioning, sending back data about the anomaly structure. By appearing harmless and non-threatening, it had survived longer than any previous attempt to study the phenomenon. "Keep monitoring everything," Lisa ordered. "Every piece of data matters." She watched as the Council's fleet drew closer to the anomaly, their weapons charged and shields at maximum power. They were about to learn the hard way what the humans had already begun to suspect, that this anomaly wasn't just a natural phenomenon, but something far more complex. As the first wave of warships approached the purple mass, Lisa and her crew continued their careful work. Sometimes the best way to be brave wasn't to charge forward, but to step back, watch, and understand. It wasn't cowardice, it was survival. The bridge of the Prudence fell silent as they watched the Council's massive fleet engage the anomaly. Thousands of warships, representing the finest military might in the galaxy, charged forward with weapons blazing. The purple mass seemed to pulse brighter, its swirling patterns becoming more intense. "Recording everything," Jack Thompson said quietly, his fingers moving across his console. No one else spoke as the first wave of ships entered the anomaly's outer edge. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the purple mass flared with brilliant light. When the light faded, the entire first wave, over 300 ships, had vanished without a trace. Just like the probes that approached aggressively, Mike Davis muttered, comparing readings. But look at our latest passive probe. It's still transmitting. Captain Lisa Brown leaned forward in her chair, studying the data flowing across her screen. The passive probe had now survived for over an hour, slowly drifting through the outer layers of the anomaly. Its sensors were recording everything, and the pattern was becoming clearer with each passing minute. The anomaly's energy signature, Jack said suddenly, his voice excited. It's not random at all. These patterns, they're repeating on a precise cycle. This isn't a natural phenomenon. The second wave of the Council's fleet, undeterred by the loss of their companions, charged forward. Their weapons fire was even heavier than the first wave, as if they believed they could overwhelm the anomaly with sheer firepower. The purple mass pulsed again, and they too vanished. Lisa pulled up the probe's latest data on the main screen. Look at these energy patterns. They're too regular, too precise. This isn't just some space phenomenon. It's a machine, a defensive system. Mike moved to a different console, pulling up historical data. The civilization that built it must have been incredibly advanced. But why here? What were they protecting? The answer came from their 11th probe, still quietly drifting deeper into the anomaly. Its passive sensors detected something that the more powerful, active scans had missed. A massive structure hidden within the heart of the purple swirls. It's a library, Jack whispered in awe, reading the incoming data. Or maybe a museum. The energy patterns, they're not just defensive, they're preservative. This whole system is designed to protect knowledge. The third wave of Council ships approached, but Lisa barely noticed them. She was focused on the probe's data, watching as it revealed more about the ancient structure. The defensive system wasn't random. It was intelligent, designed to eliminate anything it perceived as a threat while preserving the precious knowledge within. That's why direct attacks fail, she said, understanding dawning. The system was built to protect against exactly that kind of aggressive approach. It's not just destroying ships, it's following its programming, eliminating threats to the knowledge it guards. The probe continued to drift deeper, unbothered by the defensive systems that had destroyed so many warships. By approaching peacefully, without weapons or aggressive scanning, it had been categorized as non-threatening. The ancient builders had created a system that could distinguish between those who came to destroy and those who came to learn. A message flashed on the communication screen. The Council was ordering all ships to retreat. The remnants of their fleet were pulling back, their mighty weapons useless against an enemy that saw aggression itself as a threat. Send a message to Earth Command, Lisa ordered. Tell them we've identified the anomaly's true nature. And send a copy to Ambassador Miller at the Council. They need to understand. This isn't a battle to be won with weapons. It's a puzzle to be solved with patience. As the last Council ships retreated, the Prudence remained in position, its passive sensors continuing to gather data. The human crew watched in fascination as more details about the ancient library emerged from their careful study. They had discovered something remarkable, not through courage in battle, but through the wisdom of caution and the power of curiosity. The emergency council meeting was even more crowded than the first one. The massive chamber buzzed with angry voices as representatives argued about their losses. 3 waves of their finest ships had vanished, and fear had replaced their earlier confidence. Tom Miller stood at the center platform, with Captain Lisa Brown beside him. The main display showed the data from the Prudence's successful probe mission. Most representatives ignored it, too busy arguing about gathering an even larger fleet. The solution is simple, Lisa said, her voice cutting through the noise. We must approach as students, not warriors. General Stone's crystalline form shimmered with anger. Simple. You lost no ships. You hid at the edge while brave warriors died. We didn't hide, Lisa replied calmly. We watched, we learned, and we found a way in. She gestured to the display, showing the probe's peaceful journey through the defensive field. The ancient builders created a system that judges intent. It doesn't just react to weapons, it reacts to aggression itself. Commander Bright's energy form pulsed with disbelief. So you suggest we do nothing? Float helplessly like space debris? No, Tom stepped forward. We suggest we show respect. The system isn't a monster to be slain. It's a guardian of knowledge. Treat it as such, and it lets you pass. The council leader Rex raised his scaled hand for silence. Explain how this helps us. The anomaly still threatens our worlds. Lisa nodded to Mike Davis, who had joined them for the presentation. The engineer activated a new display, showing the ancient library's power core. The defensive field is expanding because the containment systems are failing. The builder's technology is finally breaking down after millions of years, but we can't fix it by attacking it. The system sees attacks as proof that their precious knowledge needs protection. Jack Thompson added from his position at the data controls. Each aggressive approach makes the defense protocols work harder, spreading the field further to protect against the perceived threat. The chamber fell quiet as the implications sank in. Their attacks hadn't just failed, they had made things worse. Our solution is counterintuitive, Lisa continued. We power down our weapons. We approach with minimal energy signatures. We show the system we're not a threat, but rather seekers of knowledge. Laughter erupted from several warrior race representatives, but it was nervous laughter now. Their traditional methods had failed spectacularly, while the human approach had succeeded. And once we're inside, Rex asked, his voice thoughtful, what then? Mike stepped forward, pulling up technical diagrams. We can repair the containment systems, but only if we get inside, and only if we do it carefully. Any aggressive action, even well-intentioned, will trigger the defenses. The chamber erupted in debate again. The warrior races struggled with the idea of approaching without weapons or shields. The very thought seemed to pain them physically. This goes against everything we believe, General Stone rumbled. To approach without strength, without defenses. Sometimes the greatest strength, Tom said quietly, is knowing when not to use it. Lisa highlighted the probe's successful path through the defense field. We've mapped a safe approach. We know what energy levels the system tolerates. We can guide ships through, but only ships that follow our protocols exactly. No weapons, no shields, no aggressive scanning. The council chamber fell silent again. Representatives looked at each other uncertainly. The human approach went against millions of years of their military traditions. What you're suggesting, Commander Bright said slowly, is that we must act like cowards. Lisa finished for her, a small smile on her face. No, like scientists, like explorers, like people who value knowledge over conquest. Rex stood, his scaled form catching the light. The humans have proven their approach works. We have proven our way fails. Sometimes wisdom requires us to accept hard truths. He turned to Lisa. Captain Brown, prepare your protocols. We will follow your lead. As the council session ended, Tom noticed something had changed. The representatives who had once mocked humanity's caution now looked at them with something new in their eyes. Respect. Sometimes it took more courage to be careful than to be brave. The Prudence led a very unusual fleet toward the quantum anomaly. Behind it followed 20 ships from different species, each one stripped of weapons and running on minimal power. For warrior races used to charging into battle with engines and weapons at full power, it felt like crawling naked through space. Remember, Lisa Brown's voice came through all ships' communication systems. Follow our exact path. Match our power levels precisely. Any deviation could trigger the defense systems. From his position at the engineering station, Mike Davis monitored the energy outputs of all ships in their formation. The warrior race's engineers struggled to keep their ships' power levels low enough. They were used to pushing systems to maximum efficiency, not deliberately running them at their lowest settings. "Third ship in line, your engine output is creeping up," Mike called out. "Reduced power by 12%. On the bridge of a massive granite ship, now running almost dark, General Stone watched his engineers make the adjustment. Every instinct screamed at him to power up, to raise shields, to be ready for battle. But he held firm, remembering the fate of his battle fleet. The purple mass of the anomaly swirled before them, its defense field rippling with energy. Jack Thompson's voice came through the comm system next. "First checkpoint reached. All ships hold position while we test the field's reaction." The fleet stopped, floating in space like a group of dead ships. The Prudence launched a passive probe, its energy signature barely registering on sensors. The probe drifted forward, sending back readings of the defense field's response. "Look at that," Jack said with quiet excitement. "The field isn't just letting us approach. It's actually calming down. The defensive protocols are reducing their power consumption." Commander Bright, her energy form dimmed to its lowest possible level, spoke from her ship. "It truly does respond to our intent. Amazing." Lisa studied the readings on her command chair's display. The ancient system was behaving exactly as they'd theorized. By approaching with peaceful intentions and minimal power signatures, they were being categorized as non-threats. The defense field was actually helping them conserve energy by reducing its own power output. "Second checkpoint," Lisa announced. "Begin synchronized power reduction to level 2. Remember your training. Slow and steady." The fleet followed her instructions, though some ships struggled with the precision required. This kind of careful, coordinated movement was foreign to races that preferred straightforward charges into battle. But they managed it, their ships growing even darker in space. As they penetrated deeper into the anomaly, the purple swirls parted around them like curtains. The ancient library structure began to appear on their sensors, its massive form hidden all this time behind layers of defensive energy. "It's beautiful," someone whispered over the comm. The library was a masterpiece of engineering, a massive structure of crystalline spires and elegant arches, all designed to preserve knowledge for millions of years. "Final checkpoint," Lisa announced. "Power down to minimal life support only. Let the defense field guide us in." This was the hardest part for the warrior races, making themselves completely vulnerable. But they did it, their ships going dark one by one until only basic life support remained active. The defense field responded, creating a gentle current of energy that began to pull them toward the library's docking structures. "Like a parent leading a child by the hand," Jack observed, watching the field's energy patterns. "It recognizes we're here to learn, not to fight." The ships docked with perfect precision, guided by the same defense system that had destroyed so many battleships. As the crews prepared to board the library, General Stone's voice came through the comm. "I owe you an apology, Captain Brown," he said, his tone humble. "We called you cowards, but this mission required more courage than any battle, the courage to set aside our weapons and trust in patience and wisdom." Lisa smiled as she looked at the ancient library through her ship's viewport. "Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit we don't need to be brave in the traditional sense. Real courage comes in many forms." Inside the ancient library, the combined crew moved carefully through crystalline corridors that hadn't seen living beings in millions of years. The air was perfectly preserved, maintained by systems that had run flawlessly for longer than most civilizations had existed. "The power core is this way," Mike Davis said, following the readings on his handheld scanner. The device was set to passive mode. They weren't taking any chances, even inside the structure. Behind him walked engineers from several species, each chosen for their steady hands and careful nature rather than their battle prowess. Captain Lisa Brown led another team through a vast chamber filled with data crystals. Each crystal contained enough knowledge to fill 1,000 books. The defensive field that had caused so much trouble was designed to protect this incredible treasury of information. "The containment system's main control room should be through here," Jack Thompson called from ahead. He stood before a door that seemed to be made of pure light. According to these symbols, this is where we can stabilize the field. The door posed their first real challenge. It wouldn't respond to any attempts to open it. The warrior race's representatives shifted uncomfortably. Normally, they would simply blast such an obstacle apart. "Look at the pattern in the light," Lisa said thoughtfully. "It's not random. It's asking us something." Jack studied the swirling symbols. "It's a test, not of strength or courage, but of understanding. We need to prove we can think before we act." The team spent an hour studying the door's patterns, making careful notes and comparing observations. No one suggested forcing it open. Finally, Jack's eyes lit up with realization. "It's showing us the library's basic filing system," he exclaimed. "The patterns are categories of knowledge, if we arrange them in the correct order." He reached out and touched specific points of light in sequence. The door dissolved silently, revealing the control room beyond. Knowledge itself was the key, Lisa smiled. The builders made sure only those who took the time to understand could reach the controls. The control room was a marvel of ancient engineering. Crystals pulsed with energy, maintaining the defensive field that had protected the library for so long. But at the center, one crystal was dimming, its light flickering erratically. Mike approached the failing crystal carefully. Scanner extended. "The containment field is destabilizing because this crystal is degrading. Its atomic structure is finally breaking down after millions of years. Can we replace it?" General Stone asked. The crystal warrior had been unusually quiet since entering the library, overwhelmed by its peaceful majesty. "No need," Mike replied. "The builders left spares. Look." He pointed to a row of identical crystals set into the wall. They knew someday the system would need maintenance. They prepared for it. All we have to do is careful, precise replacement. The next hour was the most delicate work any of them had ever done. Working together, human and alien engineers carefully removed the failing crystal and installed its replacement. One wrong move could trigger the defense systems or damage millions of years of precious knowledge. But they succeeded. The new crystal came online smoothly, its light steady and strong. The defensive field stabilized, then began to contract back to its normal size. "Look at these readings," Jack said excitedly. "The field isn't just stabilizing, it's optimizing itself. The builder's systems are actually learning from what happened, adapting to prevent similar problems in the future. And we can access the library now." Commander Bright asked, her energy form glowing with curiosity rather than battle light for once. Lisa nodded. "The defense system recognizes us as caretakers now, not threats. We've proven ourselves worthy of the knowledge stored here." As they stood in the control room of the ancient library, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of a long-lost civilization, everyone understood that they had achieved something remarkable. Not through force or bravery, but through patience, wisdom, and the courage to set aside their weapons and simply think. 1 month after the crisis, the Galactic Council chamber was different. Where weapon displays had once dominated the walls, data screens now showed information from the ancient library. The warrior races had discovered something more valuable than battle tactics. They had found wisdom. Tom Miller stood at the center platform. But this time, no one mocked his presence. Captain Lisa Brown stood beside him, along with Mike Davis and Jack Thompson. They were receiving the Council's highest honor, though not for the reasons anyone would have expected. "We gather today," Council Leader Rex announced, "not to celebrate a military victory, but to acknowledge a profound change in our understanding." His scaled form seemed softer somehow, less rigid with military bearing. "The humans have shown us a different kind of courage." The chamber's screens displayed images from their mission, the careful approach, the patient problem-solving, the successful repair of the ancient systems. But more importantly, they showed the first translations of the library's contents. The civilization that built the library, Jack explained to the assembly, called themselves the Guardians. They weren't warriors. They were teachers, scientists, explorers. They built the defensive system not out of fear, but out of hope. Hope that their knowledge would reach those wise enough to use it properly. General Stone stepped forward, his crystalline form reflecting the soft light of the data displays. I have spent my life believing that courage meant charging forward, weapons ready. But in the library's archives, we found something remarkable. He gestured to one of the screens, which showed ancient text. The Guardians faced extinction not from war, but from their own aggression against nature. They learned too late that true courage means knowing when not to fight. Commander Bright's energy form pulsed gently as she spoke next. The library contains scientific knowledge far beyond our current understanding. But its most valuable lesson was in how we reached it. What we dismissed as cowardice in humans was actually the wisdom our own species had forgotten. Mike Davis activated a new display, showing the defensive field's current status. The system is now fully stable, but more importantly, it recognizes all our species as potential students. We can access the library's knowledge freely, as long as we approach with peaceful intent. The humans' evolutionary path shaped their approach to problems. Rex continued. Their planet's dangers taught them to be cautious, to think before acting, to solve problems with wisdom rather than force. We mocked these traits, calling them cowardly. We were wrong. Lisa stepped forward. On Earth, we have a saying. The pen is mightier than the sword. It means that knowledge and wisdom often accomplish what force cannot. The Guardians understood this. They built their defense system not to destroy aggressors, but to teach them a better way. The chamber was silent as this sank in. The warrior races had spent millennia building bigger weapons, stronger shields, more powerful engines. But in the end, it was the quiet approach of the humans, the supposedly weak newcomers to the galactic community, that had succeeded where all their might had failed. Therefore, Rex announced, we establish today the Guardian Protocols. All species will train not just in warfare, but in peaceful problem-solving. We will learn to value caution as much as courage, wisdom as much as strength. Tom looked around the chamber, seeing the change in the representatives' faces. The mockery was gone, replaced by respect and understanding. Even the proudest warrior races had learned that there were different kinds of strength. The library's greatest gift wasn't its knowledge, he said quietly. It was the lesson in how to reach it. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is step back, think, and find a peaceful solution. As the ceremony concluded, the screen showed a final image. The ancient library, its defensive field now a gentle glow rather than a threatening storm. It stood as a testament not to the power of weapons or the glory of battle, but to the quiet courage of those who chose to learn rather than fight. Human wisdom, once mocked as cowardice, had become the galaxy's newest strength.